around pumping off adrenaline. I'm way too in my element. I know there's people better than, but right now who is better than? A man that's working hard as shit, trying to find a pot to piss, showing all the ups and downs shit.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living Podcast. As you can see, still in my humble abode, and actually I always feel guilty for doing my podcast here because there's literally so many units around me, behind me, or behind the camera I should say, but behind me there's just a beautiful scenery, and I think this is the best place to do the podcast episode because I don't think many people, not much traffic here. You know, there's a lot of other traffic everywhere else in the place, and this is actually our last week here, so the next video you guys see of the podcast will actually be at the next Airbnb, which will be the second one we are staying in Tulum, which would be the start of month 2 being here, which is honestly, it's been an incredible experience. I think, you know, if any of you guys get a chance to gamble on yourself and really travel the world and take that risk of not having a lease back in your hometown and stuff, I think you guys should do it. Not only from the perspective of challenging you guys yourselves from the personal standpoint to really get out there into the world and see what it is, but also from that, you know, that taking that risk factor, indulging yourself into other cultures and stuff, and really going into the unknown because, you know, 90% of the time when we're walking around going to places, we have no clue what anyone's saying, what they're doing, and, you know, it adds that extra bit of animosity. But nonetheless, today's episode I wanted to talk about is your tactical game plan. You know, I talk a lot about mental health. I talk a lot about like what you should do with your life in terms of belief systems, and talk about a lot about like being goal oriented and being focused on the future and being your best version of yourselves. But none of that is relevant if you don't have an actual game plan. You don't have things that are going to tactically help you get to that next level, whether it's a daily routine, weekly routine, monthly routine, whatever it is. You have to have something that's going to help you get to that next level. So today's episode, I want to talk about like actual tangible things that you can do each day, each week, and each month, each quarter of the year, and each say every 6 months and every 12 months to make sure that you don't just have a vision and have ambition and just want to, you know, be the best version of yourself, because saying it is one thing, but actually putting in the work is the absolute other thing. It's almost that cliche saying of, you know, just because you're busy doesn't mean you're being productive. And this is where we want to make sure that there's a lot of productivity behind that game plan, behind that belief system, behind that next level of life you want to choose through or get after. And, you know, the biggest thing with that is, first off, you have to have a vision. You have to have a vision as to where you want to be at. And the way you can articulate that vision really clearly is you got to think about it from a year ahead of from where you are right now. So think about where you are exactly where in this moment as you're listening to this podcast, as you're watching, or whatever you're doing. Like whatever you're doing, think about your life exactly 12 months from now. And every single month as you revamp that plan and kind of reflect on where you're going, you're always going to have that subconscious programming to reflect naturally, you know, because every single month that goes by, you're thinking about 12 months ahead. Do you know what I mean? So making sure that you have a 12-month plan, 3 to 5 year plan is always great, and then 10-year plan. And then honestly, retirement too. But again, you don't want to be too hung up on exactly what you're writing down for these goals for 3 to 5 years, 10 years, where your retirement and where you want to be at in a year. Because these are just goalposts. They're just here to guide you to where you want to go. They're not the exact end goal. Because, you know, as you start to show up, as you start to change your life, as you start to, like, you know, get growth in all these different areas, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, things change. You know, what's motivating you now to change may not be the same motivation in 3 months, in 6 months, in 3 years, in a year, in 5 years, you know? So the biggest thing is, like, you know, look at things from a year perspective. Again, 12 months from now. These bugs are crazy, bro. That's something I was scared of being around here. Was the bugs. But that's why I want to get this podcast done, because it's getting dark out. As soon as it gets dark out, you guys get, man, you get these bugs here you've never seen in your fucking life. It is crazy. But, you know, number one is a vision. Making sure you have a vision to articulate where you want to go. You can't just say you want a better life. You got to know exactly what that looks like. So financially, how much money you want to make. And mentally, what do you want to feel better with? Is it confidence? Is it self-esteem? Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Write it all down. Figure it out. You know, is it emotionally? Like, do you want to be more happy? Do you want to be more fulfilled? Do you want to be more full of joy? You know, think about your relationships. Do you want better boundaries? Do you want better people around you that are actually, like, you know, uplifting you and taking you to that next level with you? Like, what does your friend group look like? You know, and then, you know, everything else in between, you know, you can start kind of like pinpointing these little bit of these stepping stones as to where you got to go for the clarity as your vision. So once you got a vision, ask yourself, where do you want to be at in 12 months? Ask yourself, where you want to be at in 3 to 5 years. Ask yourself, where you want to be in 10 years and your retirement. Once you start writing these down, and each month, each year, every so often when you reflect, you're going to organically start programming your subconscious mind to start to align everything into this one avenue of your ambitious goals. You know, so again, you can have goals, you can want a better lifestyle, you can want to be in a better shape, you can want better friends, you can want a better relationship, you can want more money, but what does that actually look like? You know, so number one, as I'm saying it, I'm trying to beat into your guys' head, is the clarity and a vision. So again, I'm going to repeat it for the third time to make you guys understand how important it is. 12 months, 3 to 5 years, 10 years, and your retirement. Once you guys figure that out, like I said, every time that a month goes by, every time 6 months go by, every time a year goes by, you're going to have the organic reflection as to where you guys are at in time with that. Number 2 is you need reflection points. You need smaller goals to get to the bigger goals. We can all say we want to be a millionaire. We can all say we want as much muscle mass as we want and want to be as shredded as we can. We can all say we want a loving and fulfilling relationship where it's mutually exclusive, where both of you guys are feeling absolutely loved and full of joy. We can all say these things because we all do want them to a degree. But again, how are we going to get there? So then you got to look at where you are right now. So number 2 is looking at things from 6 months to a year. Because again, it's easy to say in a year I want to be here, in 2 years I want to be here, 5 years I want to be here. But again, as you start to progress on these goals, things are going to change. You're going to have to recalculate goals. You're going to realize some things take a lot longer than you anticipated. You're going to realize a lot of things that you're aiming for are a lot easier than you anticipated. So you got to understand how to reflect on those and manage those indifferences. So start looking at things from 6 months and 12 months and every 3 months. So, from a business standpoint, we're talking about quarters here. So January, February, March, that's quarter 1. February, March, April, May, June, quarter 2. July, August, September, quarter 3. October, November, December is quarter 4. So when you start having these quarter, every 3 month reflections and every 6 month reflections and year reflections, that way there you're going to be able to have these different goalposts as well to program your subconscious mind to, again, align yourself with where you're going. Because again, the idea here is you want to be productive. You actually want to gain traction. You want to see and look back on these lives and be like, oh shit, from a financial goal, I want to make more money. I said I was going to make more money in a year, and I actually got that promotion in 3 to 6 months. So now I'm making more money than I thought. So actually I'm 6 months ahead of the goal. That right there, being that far ahead of your goal in that standpoint, is amazing. And until you can put yourself in a position to reflect and see how far you've come and also see where you want to go, you're going to start to gain a lot more traction from a mental health standpoint as well, with confidence, self-esteem, and reassurance that you're on the right path. Another one is your emotional standpoint. Do you want less anxiety? Do you want less depression? Do you want more confidence when you see in the mirror? And if you know how you want to look at yourself in the mirror in 12 months, let's say you want to be down 10 pounds of body fat and be up 5 pounds of muscle, if you show up every single day and you're tracking your things every week, every day, every month, and every 6 months, you may get that in 3 to 6 months. Then again, you're 6 months ahead of schedule. So then you can get that much farther on your game plan. You know what I mean? And same thing with your environment. Do you want to remove people from your environment that don't show you mutual respect, that don't actually share encouraging things with you? You don't want a bunch of Debbie Downers, because again, misery loves company. And if you're revolving yourself around a bunch of people that are just anchoring you down in place, you're never going to see wins. You're never going to see success. And you're only going to do as good as the people around you, unfortunately. And as much as I hate to admit that, you got to seclude yourself a little bit. And again, if you're just focusing on being motivating and being positive and showing up and being that different version, there's no substance to that. We can want a lot of things in life, but again, if we don't have clarity and have a game plan and these milestones and goalposts to kind of reflect and really see where we are along that journey, we're never really going to get as far as we can. Yes, you can see a lot of success, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see the amount of success you deserve. And that's where people usually give up after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years, and after 4 years, because they didn't really get that much further. Are they ahead of where they used to be? 100%. But are they remotely close to where they want to be? No, they're probably just this much farther ahead in their goals compared to everyone around them. So once you start looking at things from 6 months to a year and every 3 months, as simple as it can be is, put it in your calendar. Just put in your calendar as a reoccurring thing to do every 3 months, every 6 months, and every year. And almost like every year, put it in and be like, yearly reset, reflect on the year, take an hour that day and do it, and then you'll get the automatic notification to do it. Every 3 months, do the same thing. Every 6 months, do the same thing. So then organically, you're going to have 4 to 6 checkpoints through the course of the year to look at your goals from the bird's eye view and look at everything from where they're at. And then that way there, you're going to get a lot more clarity as to what to do each month and each day, which leads me to my third thing. You got to have monthly goals, and you got to make sure that you have a day-to-day and a week-to-week process to align with that monthly goal. So prime example, with your fitness, most programs last 4 weeks, which is typically a month. Do you know what I mean? So within 3 months, you can do 3 full programs. So within those 3 programs, you can break it down to each day. You got to go to the gym 4 to 6 times a week. You got to do X amount of cardio, X amount of tracking your food, X amount of showing up in different regards. So once you start breaking down your game plan, then at this point, you have weekly goals, you have monthly goals, you have daily goals, and all of these different things, each week you can reflect, each month you can reflect, and each quarter you can reflect, which then look how much substance you've got within a 3 month period compared to just at the beginning, just saying you want to be a better version of yourself. And the reason why this is so important, again, I'm going to reiterate a lot of the same things I've been talking about this entire time, is because then you're going to gain substance. Then you're going to gain traction. This is how you don't spin your tires. This is how you don't just do the same shit every single day. Because if you do the same thing every single day and expect a different result, that's literally the definition of insanity. So once you start breaking things down from a monthly perspective, like, hey, this month, like in 6 months, I'm going to lose 10 pounds of fat. This month, I want to lose 2 pounds of fat. Do you know what I mean? So then it's okay. In this month, I have a 4-week program that I'm following. So just show up every single day, which is broken down into a month. Like, every single Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or one time a week, you're going to have progress photos and body stats you check in. Each day you're going to have, through the course of that week, a workout you're going to have to do on a certain allocated day. You're going to have nutrition you're going to have to follow that same day. And you're going to have habits that are built in the same thing at those same days to accumulate to build that success. And this is how you start to get into the concept of 1% better each day is 365% better over the course of the year. And then once you have that little game plan leveled out, and again, it's not about having it set in stone that this is exactly what you do every single day and this is how you're going to see success. It's a framework. It's a blueprint. It's almost like a recommendation, if you will. And a funny analogy, 2 analogies that I find that are funny, that resonate for a lot of people, and especially my clients and community, is number one, we've all went bowling and we've all had the blinders, the guards, on the side of the bowling alley, where it's like no matter how hard or what angle you throw the bowling ball, it's going to hit the pins. So look at these daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, 6 months, and yearly checkpoints as the guardrails to make sure you don't just completely put things into the gutter and waste all your time. Another analogy that I find works well for people is, your train tracks. You just got your train tracks to make sure you're going in the right direction. Doesn't matter the speed, doesn't matter how fast, doesn't matter how you get there. You just have your route you're going to take. And some days will look different, some months will look different, some quarters will look different. But the biggest thing is you have a trajectory, which every single time you start to build momentum and compound these wins and these successes, again, you look back, see how far you've come, reflect on how far you got to go, and then you can get that much more dialed in as to what you need to do. Remove things that don't align, double down on things that do align, and then you're reiterating yourself every single day, every single week, every single month. Like, again, you're going from 4 to 6 to 8 check-ins every single year. To if you do it every day, you see how it compounds, and you can see all these different reflections in terms of you're showing up, putting in work that's intentional, not just being busy and not getting anything done from a standpoint of just because being busy is not the goal, it's being productive. There's a thing too called Parkinson's Law. If you give your guys 6 months to do something, 9 times out of 10, you'll do it in 6 months. So if you guys have these goalposts where you got to do stuff for certain days, it's proven through stats and proven through time again, through everybody that builds their life to the life that they want, that they're going to see success. So that's a big thing as well. And I think the last one I want to speak on is just your daily routine for yourselves. And again, with today's day and age with social media and accessibility to education and access to like influencers and different things with the course of your life, there's all these routines that make you like, oh, if you start your morning routine like this, if you do this every single day, you'll do this, and if you do this every month, you'll see the success. At the end of the day, you got to have something every single day, week, month, quarter, 6 months, year. Get away from me, motherfucker. To just, again, have you in alignment to where you want to go. Some days it's going to work, some days it's not going to work. But as long as you have that weekly goalpost, you work all week, get to the weekend, reflect on the week, what can I do better next week? As simple as that. It doesn't have to be this long 10-point checklist because, again, you don't want to be stuck in the process of analysis paralysis where you just analyze everything you think you're doing well, beating yourself up on things you haven't done well, and then you're stuck in analyzing a bunch of information. Because, again, doing messy action is better than doing nothing at all. And again, as long as you have clarity and have these goalposts to reflect on and focus every day, every week, every month, you're going to build success. And again, as long as you reflect with integrity, meaning you look at it and actually be honest with what you're doing good with, double down on that, and then you actually look at what you're not doing good at, and then double down on getting rid of those things that don't benefit you in those regards, you're going to see success. So the last one is literally day to day and week to week. What's your daily routine look like? It doesn't have to be something in the morning when you get up and you do like a 3-hour morning routine before you go into the day. If that's something that, helps you feel better and you want to do it, by all means. But again, you want to make sure it's productive. Just because you get up and journal, you get up and read, and get up and go to the gym, and get up and, do all this 10-step process doesn't mean you're better than the person that's next to you. And for sure, unfortunately, I got caught up with this myself, doesn't mean you're going to be guaranteed that success to get to the next level. So with the daily routine, just has to be something simple at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. When you wake up, what do you do to get your head on your shoulders to make sure you're clear as to what you need to do that day to move the needle forward? Again, if it's a journal routine and going to the gym and a 10-step process that works for you, cool. When you reflect, maybe eventually you'll let some of that stuff go. For me personally, I used to have like a 15-step process. I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I used to go to the gym. I used to come home. I used to put 20 minutes into reading, 20 minutes into journaling, an hour into my getting my certificates for training, do an hour into my mentorship program. And then I go to work for 8 hours. And then I come home and I put 2 hours in my mentorship program, 2 hours in my certificates again. And then I do another 30 to 40 minutes of reflecting to make sure I was good. At one point in time, that did work. Now, as I started to reflect and gain traction, I realized I was putting a lot of time into holding something still. And what I mean by that is an analysis paralysis. Just because you feel like you're doing something good doesn't mean you're actually getting ahead. So these reflection points are supposed to get rid of all the junk, get rid of all the anchors, get rid of all the things that don't align in your life. And then again, and now eventually, as you grow and you become a better version of yourself, you gain more confidence, you gain less anxiety, you gain more certainty in who you are as a person, you're going to organically figure out what works for you. So now when I wake up, I do my journal routine, which is simple. 3 affirmations as to who I want to be, who I want to be as a man, who I want to be as a person, and what I want to get out of life. Then I do a goal list for that day, so little small tasks I got to get done that day, and then one big thing that's going to move the needle forward. And then I do 3 things for gratitude, because gratitude is honestly the secret hack with this, which is something that can be a whole other conversation. But if you're not grateful for what you've already had and what you've already done, there's no point in getting to the next level, because you're not even grateful for what you're doing and where you're at. So when you get to that next level, which many of you guys are probably at, you're not even equipped with the mental resources to even appreciate it. There's a lot of you guys here that are where you guys used to pray to be, and you guys haven't even reflected on being proud of yourselves, haven't given you guys self a pat on the back for actually getting things done you never thought was imaginable. Like prime example with the gym. Yeah, sure, we want to be in better shape. You want to show up and do different things and get fitter, get stronger, and lose more weight and get more muscle. But what about the point of your life when you didn't even start that? Same with your boundaries with your relationships. What about the point in your lives when you guys never even focused on being better versions of yourself? All of that in itself has so much energy, so much clarity, and so much reassurance in itself that when you start to reflect and really become confident with your processes, the sky really is the limit. But again, the sky has to have clarity as to where you're going. So for the daily routine, is like getting your head on your shoulders when you start in the morning, going out in the day and getting it done. And at nighttime, it's just something simple. Just even taking 5 minutes to become in the present moment, so you're not going to bed with a busy ass head and then you just can't really get a good quality of sleep because you're just like anxious and thinking about all these different tasks. So at nighttime, it could be just as simple as reading 10 pages of anything. It could be hanging with your significant partner and doing anything. It could be just sitting. It could be doing laundry, for fuck's sakes. It could be doing anything. But again, it's just a routine that keeps you anchored in place for yourself. And not to make it sound simple, but that's as simple as it is. And once you put all of this together and you have a daily routine and a weekly routine, a monthly routine, a quarterly routine, and then 6 months routine and 12 months routine, look how many checkpoints you have there to reflect and grow in the same process that you're doing. So I think the biggest thing, what I'm trying to get across, like I said, is things got to be tactical. Things got to be put in stone. You can't just say you want to have a better life and just wish it to existence to a degree that will get you started. But eventually you're going to have to start putting things on paper, putting things into action, and really reflecting as to what's doing good and what's not doing good. You know what I mean? So the biggest takeaway that I want you guys to take away from this is that I really hope that you guys gain a lot of clarity as to the tacticality behind what goes behind a game plan, having a vision, having goalposts to reflect on it, and then making sure you don't just do a bunch of shit to be busy. You know what I mean? Because just because you're busier than the next person beside you doesn't mean you're going to get to where you want to go. And again, like I said, you're a product of your environment. So if 9 people around you are broke, 9 people around you aren't reflecting, and 9 people around you aren't doing what they should do to get ahead, you're going to be the 10th. And just because you have a little bit of an ego that gets a little bit inflated from seeing a little bit of success and maybe gaining some muscle, getting a little bit more money, getting a better relationship, that doesn't warrant or guarantee your success. You know what I mean? So I hope you took a lot of reflection from this and understand that, as long as you have the clarity, as long as you have those honest, integral goalposts where you can kind of reflect daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, every 6 months and 12 months, that's going to make your guys' vision come to reality so much more. And the beautiful thing about that is you're going to realize 2 things. Number one, a lot of us aim super low. What I mean by that is like the life that you're dreaming of and that life that exists out there that you guys are chasing, most of the time you guys are going to realize a majority of it is within 6 months to a year. A lot of it is, unfortunately. And then you guys are going to be dealt with, which is a whole other conversation of being disappointed that you guys aren't as proud as you guys think you thought you guys were going to be, or it didn't go up to your expectations. None of these goals, and like prime example with money. Everybody says money is going to be the big thing that changes your life. Oh, if I can make $1 million and do all these different things, yes, you're going to feel a lot better. But does that mean you're going to change how you feel when you look in the mirror? No, it doesn't, unfortunately. I make good money for what I do, and it's not about boasting about money. I make, like I said, all these podcasts I talk about just making enough to live the life that I want. And then when I got the life that I wanted, didn't have to listen to anybody's schedule, didn't have to listen to anybody else. And, I was living my life unapologetically for myself. There was a year of depression that was hit because I was just lost. I didn't have clarity on who I was. I realized I wasn't reflecting and being proud of who I was, and so much more, right? Now, like I said, it's a whole other conversation. But the biggest thing is you got to have vision, and you got to have clarity as to exactly what that vision is. And you've got to have checkpoints every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every 6 months, and every 12 months to make sure you're moving the needle forward exactly where you got to go. And that's all I got for you guys, So I hope you guys got a lot of takeaways from this, because like I said, the biggest thing is just having clarity. And if you can have clarity and be integral with those goalposts to make sure you're reflecting in an honest manner of how well you're doing or what you don't need, and we're getting rid of things that you don't need, those anchors, those people, your own self-habits that aren't really aligning with the person you want to become, I can promise you're going to exceed your expectations. And take it from me, I've been doing this for 5 years now, going on 6. I've been 100% working on my own for just short of 3 years. And I can tell you right now, the biggest thing that I've learned was that I could cut all of this in half if I was to do 2 things. One, have these goalposts that I'm talking about weekly, monthly, quarterly, to reflect and being honest with myself with the growth I was having. And the second part is just being honest with myself and being proud, because that's the other half of the battle. Because again, you can get all of your goals completed in a day. If you can snap your fingers, get them done in a day, 9 times out of 10, most of you guys in 6 months to a year will be right back in the beginning part, because you fall victim to your habits, you fall victim to your standards, and you only know what you know. You know what I mean? So that's all I got for today's episode. Hope you guys got a lot of takeaways. Hope you guys got a lot of tactical information as to what you guys got to do. And if you guys ever need help with actually getting this stuff hands-on, just reach out. It doesn't mean you got to work with me. It doesn't mean I got to be your coach by any means. But again, you're one perspective shift away from absolutely changing your life beyond your own comprehension. And when you can get the nerve and get the courage to actually reach out to somebody that you look up to that has something that you don't have, like whether it's a better shape, but they're in better physical shape than you, and you want to know how they got that, just ask. Whether they're making more money than you, just ask. If they have better boundaries and living just any part of their lifestyle better than you, just ask. And like I said, you'll be one perspective shift away from absolutely changing your life. And that's all I got for today. So I appreciate you guys all for tuning in as usual. And if there's anything at all you guys ever need, just to reach out. And otherwise, just keep leading from the front and setting that motherfucking standard. Let's.
Working hard as shit, trying to find a pot to piss, showing all the